Commander Hyunwoo stared at the screen in his command chair. The readings made no sense. His ship, the Aegis Dawn, had been doing routine work in this empty part of space for 3 months. They were supposed to check planets that might have life. It was boring work, but someone had to do it. Now something was out there. Something that should not exist. "Sir, we're getting strange signals," said Officer Minji from her station. "They're not like anything in our database." Hyunwoo walked over to look at her screen. The signals were organized, clearly made by intelligent beings, but no species lived in this part of space. The Galactic Council had detailed maps of every intelligent race in the galaxy. This sector was marked as empty. "Could it be pirates using old equipment?" asked Hyunwoo. "No, sir. This technology is different. It's not based on any known science." Before Hyunwoo could respond, his communications officer started speaking, quickly. "Commander, we're being contacted directly. They're speaking to us." "Put it on screen," Hyunwoo ordered. The main display flickered and showed the face of a creature unlike anything Hyunwoo had ever seen. It had pale skin, strange hair, covering only the top of its head and small eyes. But the most shocking thing was that it was smiling. "Hello there," the creature said in perfectly clear Galactic Standard language. "I'm Captain Da-yoon of the Earth ship Perseverance. We've been hoping to meet some neighbors." Hyunwoo felt his breathing stop. This was completely wrong. First contact. Protocols were very clear. When a new species was found, the Galactic Council had to be called immediately. Trained diplomats would handle all communication. There were rules, there were procedures. This creature was ignoring all of them. You cannot..." Hyunwoo started to speak, then stopped. "You should not be talking to me directly. There are rules." Captain Da-yoon's smile got bigger. "Oh, we know about your rules. We've been listening to your communications for about 50 years. We just weren't ready to say hello until now." 50 years? Hyunwoo's mind raced. If they had been listening, for 50 years they knew about galactic civilization. They knew about the Council. They knew about proper procedures, and they were choosing to ignore everything. "You must wait for proper diplomatic contact," Hyunwoo said. "I need to report this to the Galactic Council." "Sure, go ahead," Da-eun said. "We'll be here. Actually, we'll be exploring the star system while we wait. Hope you don't mind." Before Hyunwoo could answer, his sensor officer gasped. "Sir, there are more ships. Lots more ships." The main screen split to show tactical data. 17 vessels had appeared from nowhere. They were big, bigger than most Council ships, and they were spreading out through the system like they owned it. "Those are our colony ships," Da-eun explained, still smiling. "We've been planning this expansion for a while. This system looks perfect for settlement." "You cannot colonize without Council approval," Hyunwoo said. "This violates dozens of galactic laws." "Whose laws?" asked Da-eun. "We never agreed to follow them. We're not part of your council." Hyunwoo realized he was dealing with something completely outside his experience. Every species in the galaxy followed the same basic pattern. They developed space travel slowly, under council guidance. They learned proper procedures. They accepted their place in galactic civilization. These humans were doing everything wrong. "Sir," his communications officer called out. "They're broadcasting. Something on all frequencies." "What kind of broadcast?" "Everything. Mathematical sequences, prime numbers, music, scientific data, even entertainment programs. They're just sharing everything." Hyunwoo watched in horror as his screens filled with data from the human ships. They were openly transmitting details about their technology, their culture, their history. Information that should be carefully controlled was being spread across space for anyone to receive. "Captain Da-yoon," Hyunwoo said, trying to keep his voice calm, "you must stop these transmissions. Information sharing has to be approved by proper authorities." "Why?" Da-eun asked. "Knowledge belongs to everyone. The more we all know, the better we all do." This was getting worse by the minute. Hyunwoo sent an emergency message to the council, marked with the highest priority codes. Then he tried again to reason with these humans. There are dangerous species in the galaxy, he explained. Information must be controlled to maintain peace and safety. We appreciate the warning, Daun said, but we'd rather make friends and share what we know. It's worked pretty well for us so far. The humans continued their impossible behavior. While Hyunwoo waited for council response, he watched them begin detailed scans of every planet in the system. They shared all their findings immediately, broadcasting detailed information about mineral resources, atmospheric conditions, and potential colony sites. When the Vorthak patrol fleet arrived 6 hours later, they found something that had never happened before in galactic history. The humans had already cataloged the entire system and were offering to share their data with anyone who wanted it. War Commander Keth of the Vorthak was even more confused than Hyunwoo. The Vorthak were the Council's military arm, used to dealing with simple problems: pirates who stole technology, rebels who refused to pay taxes, criminals who broke clearly defined laws. These humans were not criminals. They were not rebels. They were just completely outside the system that had governed galactic civilization for millions of years. "Greetings, War Commander," Captain Dayun said when Keth contacted her. "We're honored to meet representatives of another species. Would you like to share scientific data? We've learned a lot about this system already." Keth looked at Hyunwoo with confusion. "Are they serious?" "I think so," Hyunwoo replied. "They seem to think sharing information is normal." 3 days later, Counselor Taemin arrived with a full, diplomatic team. He had spent the journey studying every piece of data about these humans. What he learned made him deeply worried. The humans had achieved faster-than-light travel without any outside help. They had developed advanced computers, artificial intelligence, and energy systems all at the same time. They had spread across their own solar system and were already preparing to expand further. Most frightening of all, they shared information freely among themselves. Their entire species was connected by something called the Internet, which let them spread knowledge instantly across their entire world. When Taemin met with Captain Daun, he tried to explain why the Council's way was better. "Controlled development keeps the galaxy stable," he said. "When species advance too quickly, it leads to wars and chaos." "Maybe," Daun replied, "but it also leads to amazing discoveries. Look at what we've accomplished in just a few centuries." Taemin had looked. The humans had gone from primitive agriculture to space travel in less time than most species spent learning to use fire properly. They had skipped entire stages of development that the Council considered essential. "Your species needs guidance," Taemin said. "There are things you don't understand about galactic civilization." "Then teach us," Daun said. "We love learning new things." That was the problem. These humans were not afraid of new knowledge. They did not want to be protected from dangerous information. They wanted to learn everything, share everything, and grow as fast as possible. As Taemin's ship left the system, he was already preparing his report to the full council. These humans could not be allowed to continue unchecked. They represented a threat to everything the galaxy had built over millions of years. The report's final recommendation was clear. Humanity must be reclassified from developing species to Category Yellow potential threat. It was the first time in galactic history that a species had been elevated to threat status, not for being aggressive, but for being too friendly. Ambassador Kyung-soo read the reports with growing disbelief. 6 months had passed since first contact with the humans. In that short time, everything had gone wrong. The Council had planned a careful 50-year integration process for humanity. First, they would learn about galactic civilization slowly. Then they would be given limited technology transfers. Finally, after decades of careful guidance, they might be allowed to establish a few colonies under Council supervision. Instead, humans now had settlements on 12 different worlds across 3 star systems. "How is this possible?" Kyung-soo asked his aide, a young Zephyrian named Veltar. "They were already prepared, sir," Veltar replied, checking his data tablet. "Those ships we saw during first contact were not exploration vessels. They were carrying colonists, equipment, and supplies. The humans call them generation ships, and they had been traveling for decades." Kyung-soo felt a headache starting. You mean they launched colony missions before they even made contact with us? Yes, sir. According to their records, they started sending out colony ships over 60 years ago. They were planning to spread across the galaxy whether they met other species or not. This was completely outside Council experience. Every other species waited for permission before expanding beyond their home system. It was basic galactic law. But these humans had simply ignored laws they did not know existed. Get me a meeting with their leadership, Kyung-Soo ordered. We need to stop this expansion before it gets worse. The meeting was scheduled for the next day, but it did not go as planned. When Kyung-Soo arrived at the human diplomatic station, he found himself facing not one leader, but 12 representatives from different human governments. Admiral Boram seemed to be their main speaker, but she kept asking the others for their opinions. It was chaos. We need to discuss your expansion plans, Kyung-Soo began. The council has procedures for new colonies that must be followed. Which council? Asked Representative Jin Woo from something called the European Federation. We have several councils ourselves. The Galactic Council, Kyung-Soo said patiently. The governing body for all civilized species. Oh, that one, said Admiral Boram. We're not members of that council. We never agreed to follow their rules. But all species follow council guidance, Kyung-Soo explained. It maintains order and prevents conflicts. President Lee from the Korean Federation laughed. We've been having conflicts on Earth for thousands of years. Somehow we still managed to make progress. This was exactly the problem. The humans did not have a single world government. They had dozens of different nations, and all of them were now racing to claim territory in space. The Council's diplomatic protocols assumed they would deal with one unified planetary authority. You must choose a single representative, Kyung-Soo said. The Council cannot negotiate with multiple governments. Why not? Asked Minister Jung from the Asian Alliance. We negotiate with each other all the time. It works fine. Before Kyung-Soo could answer, his aide burst into the room with urgent news. Sir, there's been a complaint filed with the Trade Authority. The humans are disrupting established commerce routes. The complaint came from the Zephyrian Trade Guild, one of the most powerful economic organizations in the galaxy. Guildy. Leader Morquan was furious. These humans are destroying thousands of years of careful trade relationships, Morquan told the emergency council session. They're offering goods and services at prices that make no economic sense. Counselor Jae Young studied the evidence. What exactly are they selling? Everything, Morquan said bitterly. Quantum storage devices better than our best technology. Advanced computer systems. Energy cells that last 3 times longer than standard models. And they're selling them for a fraction of what they're worth. How did they develop this technology? So quickly? Asked Counselor Nari. That's the worst part, Morquan replied. They didn't develop it. They copied our technology, improved it, and now they're mass-producing better versions. The evidence was undeniable. Human entrepreneur Ji-hoon had somehow obtained Zephyrian quantum storage technology during a trade meeting. Within 3 weeks, his company was producing storage devices that were smaller, more reliable, and cheaper than the originals. This is intellectual property theft, Morquan declared. They must be stopped, but when council investigators looked into the matter, they discovered something even more disturbing. The humans had not stolen the technology. They had been given it freely by a young Zephyrian engineer who was excited to share knowledge with a new species. The engineer, Delwyn, was completely confused by the accusations against him. I thought they might have new ideas about quantum resonance, he explained. They did. Their improvements are brilliant. This led to an even more shocking discovery. The humans shared their improvements freely, not just with their own people, but with anyone who asked. They had sent the enhanced designs back to Delwyn and offered to teach other Zephyrian engineers how to implement the new techniques. Scientific observer Nari was assigned to study this phenomenon. Her report to the council was deeply troubling. The humans have a global information network called the Internet, she reported. When one human learns something new, they can share it with millions of others almost instantly. That's impossible, said Counselor Kretmar. Information sharing must be controlled. Otherwise, dangerous knowledge could spread too quickly. The humans don't seem to worry about that, Nari replied. They share everything: scientific discoveries, cultural information, entertainment, personal communications. Their entire species has access to their combined knowledge. The council chamber fell silent. Every civilized species controlled information carefully. Knowledge was shared slowly, through proper channels, with appropriate safeguards. The idea of instant, uncontrolled information sharing was terrifying. How do they maintain social order? Asked Counselor Velhan. They don't exactly, Nari said. They have constant debates, arguments, and disagreements, but somehow they still manage to cooperate on major projects. The situation got worse when human colonists encountered the Krethak. This was every council member's nightmare scenario. The Krethak were a predatory species that had been contained through careful diplomatic isolation for 3 centuries. They were aggressive, territorial, and had technology that could threaten galactic stability if it spread to other species. When human colonists on Kepler 442b detected Krethak ships nearby, the Council expected them to retreat immediately. Instead, Governor Minho did something unprecedented. He contacted the Krethak directly and invited them to negotiate. Are you insane? Counselor Taymin asked when he heard about the contact. The Krethak are extremely dangerous. They've been isolated, for good reasons. They seem reasonable to me, Governor Minho replied during the emergency communication. A little aggressive, maybe, but we've dealt with aggressive neighbors before. Within a week, the humans had negotiated a mutual defense pact with the Krethak. The human colony would share their advanced metallurgy techniques in exchange for Krethak crystalline technology. Both species benefited immediately. The humans learned how to grow crystals that made their computers faster and more efficient. The Krethak learned human manufacturing techniques that let them build better ships and equipment. This is a disaster, Counselor J. Young told the emergency session. The Krethak have been contained for centuries. Now they have access to human technology and manufacturing methods. What are the humans getting from this arrangement? Asked Counselor Nari. Better technology, new scientific knowledge, and apparently friends, replied Intelligence Director Hyorin. The Krethak seemed to like the humans' direct approach to communication. The reports kept getting worse. Human merchants were setting up trade relationships with species that had been carefully isolated. Human scientists were sharing research with civilizations that the Council preferred to keep at specific technology levels. Everywhere humans went, they seemed to make friends and share knowledge. They ignored thousands of years of careful diplomatic balance and somehow made it work. We need to act, Counselor J. Young declared. The humans are disrupting the entire galactic order. What do you suggest? Asked Counselor Taymin. A demonstration of authority, J. Young replied. Something to show them that there are consequences for ignoring galactic law. The emergency session lasted for 3 days. Representatives from dozens of species demanded action. The Zephyrian Trade Guild wanted economic sanctions. The hegemony military wanted to blockade human colonies. The diplomatic corps wanted to try negotiation one more time. In the end, they chose the military option. 3 different alien civilizations had filed formal complaints about human activities. The evidence was clear that humanity represented a growing threat to galactic stability. The final vote was unanimous. Humanity would be reclassified from Category Yellow, potential threat, to Category Orange, active monitoring required. A military demonstration would be authorized to show the humans that galactic law had to be respected. Counselor J. Young looked around the chamber at his fellow council members. They had governed the galaxy peacefully for millions of years. Surely they could handle one small human colony. How much trouble could 50,000 humans possibly cause? High Counselor J. Young stood before the massive display screen in the council war room. The decision had been made. The human colony on Proxima 7 would serve as an example to the rest of their species. This will be a simple police action, he explained to the assembled military commanders. We blockade the colony, they surrender, and we negotiate proper terms for human expansion. War Marshal Dong Hyun nodded confidently. The colony has 50,000 humans and basic defensive systems. Our fleet has 300 ships with the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. They will surrender within hours. The plan was straightforward. The hegemony's most powerful fleet would surround the human colony called New Sol. Cut off from supplies and reinforcements, the humans would have no choice but to accept council authority. Every species in galactic history had responded the same way to overwhelming force. They negotiated. They compromised. They accepted their place in the greater order. The humans, as usual, did something completely different. When War Marshal Dong Hyun's fleet arrived at Proxima 7, they found the bomb colony exactly as expected. One small planet with basic settlements, a few defensive satellites, and about 50,000 humans going about their daily business. Attention, human colony. Dong Hyun broadcast on all frequencies. You are in violation of galactic law. Surrender immediately and prepare for council occupation. The response came from Colony Defense Coordinator Hyo Jin, a middle-aged human woman who seemed remarkably calm for someone facing the largest military fleet ever assembled in this sector. "Hello there," she said pleasantly. "We're honored by your visit. However, we're not planning to surrender. We haven't broken any laws that we agreed to follow." "You are disrupting galactic order," Dong Hyun replied. "Submit to council authority or face the consequences." "Could you hold on for just a moment?" Hyojin asked. "We need to make a few calls." Before Dong Hyun could respond, his communications officer reported something impossible. "Sir, the humans are broadcasting everything on open channels. They're telling everyone in the galaxy what's happening here." Dong Hyun looked at his tactical displays in confusion. The humans were not just calling for help. They were streaming live video of the blockade, complete with detailed scans of every ship in his fleet. "Turn off those broadcasts immediately," he demanded. "We can't do that," Hyojin replied. "Freedom of information is one of our basic rights. People have a right to know what's happening." Within the first hour, something unprecedented began to happen. Other species across the galaxy started watching the live broadcast from New Sol. They could see the massive hegemony fleet surrounding a small human colony. They could hear every communication between the two sides. More importantly, they could see the detailed technical scans that Dr. Yoon Ji, the colony's head researcher, was sharing freely. "These are very impressive ships," Dr. Yoon Ji commented during her broadcast. "Look at this shield configuration. And these weapon systems are fascinating. I'm uploading all the technical data we're gathering. Maybe someone can use this information." Dong Hyun watched in horror as his fleet's most secret military technology was broadcast across the galaxy. "Stop these transmissions or we will open fire." "On civilians sharing scientific data?" Hyojin asked. "That seems a bit extreme. But you're welcome to try. We'll broadcast that too." The situation got worse when other humans started arriving. Not military ships, but converted cargo haulers, mining vessels, and exploration craft. 17 ships appeared over the course of 3 days, all answering the colony's call for help. "This is Captain Yumi of the trading vessel Lucky Strike," announced the first arrival. "We heard you might need supplies." "This is Engineer Dalho with the mining ship Rock Crusher," called another. "We brought some equipment that might be useful." Dong Hyun found himself facing something completely outside his training. These were not warships coming to fight. They were civilians coming to help their friends. But they were all armed with improvised weapons and seemed completely unafraid of his massive fleet. "You cannot interfere with a council police action," he warned the arriving humans. "We're not interfering," Captain Yumi replied cheerfully. "We're just visiting friends and sharing supplies. Is that illegal?" The humans did not try to fight the hegemony fleet. Instead, they treated the blockade like a logistics problem. They began coordinating supply runs, establishing communication networks, and organizing defensive positions as if this was just another engineering challenge. Colony Defense Coordinator Hyo Jin held daily briefings that were broadcast live across the galaxy. She explained exactly what the humans were doing and why. "The Council wants us to follow laws we never agreed to," she said during one broadcast. "They want to control how fast we grow and what we learn. We think that's unreasonable, so we're politely declining their offer." The broadcasts were having effects that no one had predicted. Other species across the galaxy were learning things they had never known before. The technical data that Dr. Yunji shared included detailed information about Council military technology, trade routes, and administrative systems. For the first time in millions of years, ordinary citizens of different species could see how galactic government actually worked. Many of them did not like what they saw. On the Zephyrian homeworld, young engineers used human-shared data to build better communication systems. On the rim worlds, miners learned new techniques that made their work safer and more profitable. In the core systems, scientists discovered research that had been classified for centuries. The humans are creating a galactic intelligence network, reported Intelligence Director Kang Min to an emergency council session. Information is spreading faster than we can control it. How much damage has been done? Asked Councillor Taman. 12 species have requested meetings to renegotiate their council agreements, Kang Min replied. 3 more have declared independence from Hegemony Authority, and the Outer Rim Alliance is demanding access to all the scientific data the humans have shared. The situation at Proxima 7 was rapidly becoming a secondary problem. The real crisis was happening across the galaxy as the careful balance of controlled information and limited knowledge began to collapse. High Counselor Jae Young made a personal communication to War Marshal Dong Hyun. End this blockade immediately. We're losing control of the entire outer sector. What about the humans? Dong Hyun asked. Let them go. We have bigger problems now. But the humans were not finished. As the Hegemony fleet prepared to withdraw, Colony Defense Coordinator Hyo Jin made one final broadcast. We want to thank the Hegemony fleet for this educational experience, she said. We've learned a lot about galactic military technology and government procedures. We're sharing all of this information freely, as always. We hope it helps other species make informed decisions about their own futures. The blockade of New Sol ended after 72 hours. The Hegemony fleet withdrew without firing a single shot. The human colony continued operating exactly as it had before, but everything else had changed. War Marshal Dong Hyun submitted his report with growing dread. The humans have demonstrated an ability to organize resistance on a galactic scale, he wrote. They did not defeat our fleet through superior firepower. They defeated us by making our actions visible to everyone and sharing knowledge that undermines council authority. The final paragraph of his report contained the recommendation that no military commander wanted to make. Humanity represents an existential threat to galactic order. They cannot be controlled through conventional means because they operate outside the framework that governs all other species. 3 days after the fleet's return, High Counselor Jae Young called an emergency session of the full Galactic Council. Representatives from over 200 species gathered to address what they now called the human problem. The evidence was overwhelming. In less than 1 year since first contact, humanity had disrupted trade relationships, shared classified technology, organized resistance movements, and demonstrated that galactic authority could be challenged successfully. The vote was unanimous and historic. Humanity was reclassified from Category Orange, active monitoring required, to Category Red, existential threat to galactic order. It was the first time in galactic history that a species had been declared a Category Red threat not for conquering worlds, but for sharing information and making friends. As the council session ended, Counselor Tai Min looked around the chamber at his fellow representatives. Many of them seemed worried. Some looked frightened. What do we do now? Asked a representative from the outer worlds. We prepare for the possibility that everything we've built over millions of years is about to change, replied High Counselor Jae Young. Outside the council chambers across the galaxy, humans continued doing what they had always done. They explored new worlds, shared what they learned, and made friends with anyone willing to listen. They had no idea they had just been declared the most dangerous species in galactic history. Chief Navigator So Young checked her star charts one more time. The readings were correct, even though they seemed impossible. In the 6 months since the Proxima 7 incident, humanity had expanded from 12 colonies to over 200 settlements, across 47 star systems. How are they moving so fast? She asked her navigation team aboard the exploration vessel New Horizon. They're not following safe travel routes. replied Navigator Junho. "They're going through systems we marked as too dangerous for colonization." So Young studied the reports with growing amazement. Humans had established colonies in radiation-soaked systems that would kill most species. They had built settlements in gravity wells so strong that normal ships could not escape. They had somehow made homes in regions of space that the Council had declared completely uninhabitable. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a display. "They've got a thriving colony in the Vortex Nebula. The electromagnetic storms there should make all technology useless." "Their ships seem to handle it fine," Junho replied. "They modified their hulls with some kind of adaptive shielding. The storm energy actually powers their settlements." This was typical human behavior. Where other species saw obstacles, humans saw engineering challenges. Where the Council saw impossibility, humans saw opportunity. The reports coming in from across the galaxy painted a picture that terrified Council leadership. Humans were not just spreading faster than anyone thought possible. They were fundamentally changing how space civilization worked. Security Director Inho read through intelligence reports in his office on the Council homeworld. The news was getting worse every day. "Sir," his aide reported, "we have confirmation of 17 more worlds where local governments have adopted human-style democratic systems." "How?" Inho asked. "We've been carefully managing those governments for centuries. The humans share information about their political systems as freely as they share everything else," his aide explained. "Local populations are learning about concepts like individual rights, free elections, and limited government power." Inho rubbed his temples. The rigid caste systems that maintained galactic stability were crumbling wherever humans established influence. Species that had accepted authoritarian rule for thousands of years were suddenly demanding representation in their own governments. "What about economic disruption?" he asked. "Getting worse, sir. Human trading methods are destroying established commercial relationships across 3 sectors. The problem was not that humans were aggressive competitors. The problem was that they made everything too efficient. Human merchants like entrepreneur Kyung Ho had developed trading networks that bypassed traditional intermediaries and reduced costs dramatically. They're selling advanced computer systems for half the normal price," his aide continued. "Energy storage devices that last 3 times longer than standard models. And they're offering these technologies to anyone who wants them." "Anyone?" Inho asked. "Yes, sir. They don't care about species status, council membership, or political alignment. If you want to trade with humans, they're willing to trade with you." This was destroying the careful economic controls that kept potentially dangerous species contained. The council maintained galactic peace partly by limiting access to advanced technology. Humans ignored these restrictions completely. Ambassador Wu Jin tried one final diplomatic solution. He requested a meeting with the human leadership to propose what he called a human reservation, 50-star systems where humanity could expand without interfering with established galactic order. 3. Meeting was held on New Geneva, one of humanity's newest colonies. Wu Jin found himself in a conference room with President Subin and representatives from a dozen different human governments. "We appreciate the offer," President Subin said after listening to the proposal. "But we're not interested in being contained. We prefer to make friends and explore freely." "You don't understand the dangers," Wu Jin explained. "There are species in this galaxy that have been contained for good reasons. If they gain access to your technology, then maybe we can help them become better neighbors," Subin replied. "We've had good luck with that approach so far." Wu Jin tried a different angle. "Your expansion is causing political instability. Governments that have maintained order for millennia are being challenged by populations demanding human-style freedoms." "Is that bad?" asked Representative Minsu from the African Federation. "People should have a say in their own government. Not if it leads to chaos and war," Wu Jin said. "We've found that people usually fight less when they have more freedom and better living conditions," President Subin said, "both of which tend to improve with better technology and open information sharing." The meeting continued for hours, but Wu Jin made no progress. The humans were polite, friendly, and completely unwilling to limit their expansion or change their behavior. We understand your concerns, Subin said as the meeting ended. But we're not going to stop growing, exploring, and making friends just because it makes some governments nervous. As Wu Jin's ship left New Geneva, he was already composing his report to the council. Diplomatic solutions had failed, economic pressure had failed, military demonstration had failed. The humans could not be contained through any conventional means. The crisis reached its peak when the most ancient and powerful force in the galaxy finally took notice of the human problem. The Eternal Empire had ruled galactic civilization for over 1,000,000 years. They rarely interfered directly in galactic affairs, preferring to work through the Council and other subordinate governments. Most species considered them legendary figures rather than real political entities. When their massive flagship appeared in Earth's solar system, every government on Earth stopped what they were doing to pay attention. The ship was larger than Earth's moon and radiated power that made human sensors overload just trying to scan it. This was technology so advanced that it seemed like magic to human understanding. "Greetings, humans of Earth," came the transmission from the Eternal Empire vessel. "We are here to discuss your future in this galaxy." The response came from an unexpected source. Instead of world leaders or military commanders, a teenager named Jun Seo appeared on global broadcasts, speaking for something called the Global Youth Council. "Hello," Jun Seo said with the same casual friendliness that had characterized human diplomacy from the beginning. "We're honored by your visit. What can we help you with?" The representative of the Eternal Empire seemed taken aback by this response. "You face a choice, young humans. Conform to galactic law and accept your assigned place in civilization, or face the consequences of continued defiance." "That's very generous," Jun Seo replied, "but we respectfully decline both options. We're too busy building a better galaxy to worry about conforming or being defiant. You do not understand the forces you are dealing with." "The Eternal Empire," representative said. "We have maintained galactic order for eons. We will not allow one species to destroy what we have built." "We're not trying to destroy anything," Jun Seo said. "We're trying to improve things. There's a difference." The conversation continued for several hours, broadcast live across Earth and dozens of human colonies. The entire galaxy watched as a teenage human calmly discussed philosophy and politics with representatives of the most powerful civilization in galactic history. "Your species shows promise," the Eternal Empire representative finally said. "But promise without guidance leads to chaos. Submit to our authority and we will help you reach your potential safely." "Thanks for the offer," Jun Seo replied. "But we prefer to learn by doing. It's messier but more fun." "Then you choose the path of conflict," the representative said. "No," Jun Seo said. "We choose the path of friendship and cooperation. You're welcome to join us anytime." The transmission ended with what might have been laughter from the Eternal Empire vessel. But the ship remained in Earth's solar system, and more ships were arriving daily. Within a week, the most powerful fleet ever assembled in galactic history surrounded Earth. Hundreds of vessels from the Eternal Empire, supported by ships from every major galactic power. The message was clear. Humanity's expansion and influence had reached the point where the galaxy's ultimate authorities felt threatened, enough to act directly. "This is it," reported Intelligence Director Inho to an emergency council session. "Either the humans submit to Eternal Empire authority, or we witness the first interstellar war in galactic history." "What are the humans doing?" asked Counselor Taemin. "Same thing they always do," Inho replied. "They're broadcasting everything live, sharing technical data about every ship in the fleet, and asking if anyone wants to join them for what they're calling a diplomatic barbecue on the lunar surface." High Counselor Jae Young stared at the reports with a mixture of admiration and terror. After everything that had happened, after facing the most powerful military force in galactic history, the humans were still trying to make friends. "What happens if the Eternal Empire decides to destroy them?" he asked. "Then we lose the most interesting species the galaxy has encountered in millions of years," Inho replied. "And we never find out what they might have accomplished if we had let them continue." The next few days would determine whether humanity's expansion across the galaxy would end in friendship or fire. Admiral Yujin stood on the bridge of Earth's hastily assembled defense command ship, watching the largest fleet in galactic history surround her homeworld. The Eternal Empire had brought hundreds of vessels, each one more advanced than anything humanity had ever built. 17 minutes, she said to her communications officer. That's how long this is going to last. She was right, but not in the way anyone expected. The confrontation began when Elder Supreme Heiwan of the Eternal Empire opened direct communications with Earth's leadership. Her image appeared on screens across the planet, an ancient being whose species had ruled the galaxy since before humans learned to use fire. People of Earth, Elder Supreme Heiwan said, you have forced us to emerge from our long isolation. Your actions threaten the stability we have maintained for 1,000,000 years. The response came from President Dalho, speaking from the Emergency Command Center in Geneva.
We're sorry to hear that you feel threatened. That was never our intention. We just want to explore, learn, and make friends. Your expansion disrupts carefully maintained balances, Heiwan replied. Your information sharing destroys controls
that prevent galactic chaos. Your friendship threatens species that must remain contained. Why? Asked President Dalho. Why do species need to be contained? Why does information need to be controlled? Why can't everyone just work together? For a moment, Elder Supreme Heiwan was silent. Then she said something that changed everything. Because something is coming. The transmission shifted to show star charts that made human astronomers gasp. Beyond the galaxy, in the dark spaces between star clusters, something vast was moving toward them. We have watched the approaches to our galaxy for eons, Heiwan explained. An intelligence exists in the void between galaxies. It consumes civilizations, learns from them, and grows stronger. It has destroyed countless galactic communities across the universe. Admiral Yujin felt her understanding of galactic politics shift completely. You mean all the controls, the limitations, the careful management of species development were designed to keep our galaxy hidden and unified, Heiwan confirmed. Rapid expansion draws attention. Uncontrolled technology development creates signals that can be detected across intergalactic distances. Species conflicts weaken our collective defenses. President Dalho leaned forward. How long do we have? Perhaps 1,000 years, perhaps less. The entity moves slowly, but it is definitely coming toward our galaxy. And your plan is to hide until it arrives? Asked Admiral Yujin. Our plan is to maintain defensive readiness while remaining undetected as long as possible, Heiwan replied. It has worked for 1,000,000 years. Has it? Asked President Dalho. Because it sounds like you've just been delaying the inevitable while hoping the problem goes away. There was another long silence. Then Elder Supreme Heiwan said something that surprised everyone listening. What would you suggest instead? The question hung in space for a moment. Then Admiral Yujin smiled and said the words that would reshape galactic civilization. Instead of hiding and hoping they don't find us, why don't we go find them first? The idea was so completely outside normal thinking that it took several minutes for its implications to sink in. Every species in galactic history had approached threats defensively, build walls, hide resources, prepare for siege. Humans were suggesting the opposite. Meet the threat actively, learn about it, find ways to neutralize it before it became unstoppable. That's incredibly dangerous, Heiwan said. More dangerous than waiting for them to show up when we're not ready, asked President Dalho. Over the next several hours, something unprecedented happened. The most ancient and powerful civilization in the galaxy found themselves in extended discussions with a species that had achieved space travel less than a century ago. The humans asked questions that the Eternal Empire had never considered. What did this intergalactic entity actually want? How did it operate? What were its weaknesses? Had anyone ever tried to communicate with it? We know almost nothing about its true nature, Heiwan admitted. Our strategy has been avoidance, not investigation. That doesn't sound very scientific, said Dr. Sang-Woo, who had joined the conversation as Earth's chief research coordinator. How can you defend against something you don't understand? The discussion continued for days. Human scientists, military leaders, and philosophers found themselves working alongside beings who had witnessed the rise and fall of entire galactic civilizations. What emerged was a completely new approach to the intergalactic threat. "We propose a joint research initiative," Dr. Sang-Woo explained to the assembled fleet commanders. "Combine human innovation with 1,000,000 years of galactic knowledge. Instead of preparing to hide from this entity, we prepare to understand it. And if understanding leads to contact?" asked Elder Supreme Haewon. "Then we'll deal with that when it happens," replied Admiral Yujin. "Humans have pretty good luck with first contact situations." The comment drew what might have been laughter from several species representatives. Within months, the most ambitious scientific project in galactic history was underway. Human creativity and willingness to take risks combined with ancient wisdom and advanced technology to produce results that amazed everyone involved. Dr. Sang-Woo worked with researchers from 17 different species to develop new types of sensors that could detect intergalactic phenomena. Human engineers collaborated with Eternal Empire technicians to build ships capable of traveling between galaxies. Most importantly, human diplomats and philosophers worked with galactic leaders to completely restructure how civilization was organized. "The old system was designed for hiding," explained Ambassador Su Jin during a broadcast to the entire galaxy. "The new system is designed for growth and active defense." The changes were dramatic. Species that had been kept isolated for security, reasons were invited to join the galactic community. Information that had been classified for millions of years was shared freely. Technology transfers accelerated dramatically as every species contributed their knowledge to the common defense. Tukyu. Krythak, who had been contained for centuries, became enthusiastic partners in developing new weapon systems. The Zephyrian Trade Guild found new markets as economic restrictions were lifted. Even the most conservative species found roles in the expanding galactic cooperative. "It's working," reported Intelligence Director Kang Min to the Reformed Council. "Instead of dozens of isolated civilizations hiding from a threat, we have a unified galactic community actively preparing to meet it." The transformation was not without problems. Some species struggled with the rapid changes. A few isolated groups tried to maintain the old system of careful control and limited growth. But the majority of galactic civilization embraced the new approach with enthusiasm that surprised everyone. Humans were right about one thing, Elder Supreme Haewon told the first meeting of the new galactic cooperative. "Friendship and cooperation do work better than isolation and control." The final test of the new system came when Captain Chae-Won launched humanity's first extragalactic exploration mission. The ship carried volunteers from 17 different species, including humans, Eternal Empire representatives, reformed Krythak warriors, and even a few former council bureaucrats, who had decided they preferred exploration to administration. "Where exactly are we going?" asked Dr. Min Jung, the mission's chief scientist. "To find our neighbors," replied Captain Chae-Won, "and hopefully make some new friends." The ship disappeared into the void between galaxies, carrying a simple message. For whatever they might find, "Hello, we're here to help." Back in the galaxy they left behind, the transformation continued. Humanities category. Red classification remained in effect, but now it read, Humanity, red alert for positive change, warning, exposure to human ideals. May result in uncontrolled. Optimism and belief. That impossible things are just engineering problems waiting for solutions. Elder Supreme High One reviewed the changes with a mixture of amazement and hope. In less than 2 years, a species that had seemed like a threat to galactic order had become the catalyst for the greatest positive transformation in galactic history. "What do you think will happen when Captain Chae-Won's mission makes contact?" asked her aide. "Knowing humans," Haewon replied, "they'll probably invite whatever they find to join the cooperative and offer to share technology. And if the intergalactic entity is hostile, then we'll deal with it together as friends and allies instead of hiding separately and hoping for the best." For the first time in 1,000,000 years, the galaxy faced the future with optimism instead of fear. And somewhere in the void between galaxies, a small ship carried the hopes of an entire galactic community toward whatever challenges and opportunities awaited them in the vast universe beyond.